They say the universe is quiet, that space is silence, endless and still. But what if one day it sang, not with static or noise, but with a melody, beautiful, haunting, and not from Earth? What if the stars weren't empty, but waiting? When a mysterious song played through every device on the planet and a black, impossible ship appeared above the Pacific, humanity didn't just discover it wasn't alone. It discovered it had forgotten something. Something ancient. Something dangerous. And now, that forgotten truth is rising from the deep, ready to be remembered. Before we start, please, subscribe to the channel by clicking the card button on the top right corner now. And hit the notification bell so you can get amazing daily stories as and when published. Please do comment your views about the story or any topic that you want to get a story on. We'll make it happen. Let's dive in the story. It started with music, not the kind that came from instruments or speakers. No, this was different. Satellites, antennas, even old analog receivers. Everything started humming the same eerie melody. No static, no interference, just a soft tune that echoed in perfect harmony across every corner of the Earth. And the strangest part? No one could trace the source. Dr. Noah Trent stood alone on the snow-dusted ridge above Glacier Peak Observatory, staring at the sky as the melody played through his earpiece. His breath clouded in the cold night air, but his thoughts ran hot. "This can't be natural," he whispered to himself. A voice crackled through his comms. "You gonna keep stargazing all night? Or are you gonna explain this creepy lullaby to the rest of us?" Ava Monroe's voice was sharp, teasing, but carried that usual undertone of tension she never quite shook. Noah chuckled. "Not sure I can explain it. It's not a transmission. It's pure data layered into harmonics. It's intelligent." Seconds later, Ava stepped up beside him. Her sleek suit clung to her like second skin, the dark blue fabric gleaming under the moonlight. Her long hair was pulled tight into a braid, and her visor glowed faintly around the edges. "I swear, if this is some viral marketing stunt, I'm going to shoot someone," she muttered. "Yeah, well, if it is, someone hacked every satellite on the planet to pull it off," Noah replied, not taking his eyes off the sky. And then it happened. The stars shifted. At first, it seemed like a trick of the light. But then, from the blackness above the Pacific Ocean, a shape emerged. Slow, silent, impossibly smooth. It was like the night itself folded open, and out came a vessel, blacker than space, its surface absorbing starlight. It didn't roar or burn or shimmer. It just was. Jesus aveva spirit. The object hovered above the ocean, motionless, flawless, terrifying in its silence. "Did we get that?" Noah asked, already tapping commands into his wrist panel. "Full visual and thermal," she said, her tone suddenly serious. "But there's no heat, no emissions. It's not flying. It's just hanging there." As they watched, something dropped from the ship. A glowing orb, perfectly spherical, fell straight down, vanishing into the sea without a ripple. "Did you see that?" Ava shouted. "It just no splash. Nothing. Like it phased through. What the hell are we dealing with?" Noah murmured. Ava turned to him, eyes sharp. If this is first contact, they sure skipped the courtesy part. Noah looked back at the dark sky, the music still echoing faintly. "Whatever this is," he said, his voice tight, "we weren't ready for it." A pause. Then Ava smirked. "We never are." The next morning, the world felt different. News outlets exploded with shaky videos of the object hovering silently over the Pacific. Some called it an alien ship. Others claimed it was an experimental military project gone rogue. But no one could explain the music. The melody had stopped exactly when the object arrived, and every attempt to replay or analyze it yielded corrupted files, like it had erased itself. At the Global Response Center in Geneva, a secure, subterranean hall buzzed with the tension of every major government crammed into one room. Holographic displays hovered above the central table, showing the black ship and the moment the orb dropped into the ocean. Dr. Noah Trent stood between two generals, arms crossed, expression hard. The drop site was exactly 200 miles west of Hawaii. No debris, no radiation, and no sound. General Ortega leaned in, frowning. "You're telling me that thing just dropped a glowing egg into the ocean and disappeared?" Noah glanced at the screen again. It didn't disappear. It's still there, just not moving, not communicating. "And we can't scan it?" asked a voice from behind. Ava Monroe strode into the room, her long coat flaring behind her like a cape. Her hair was still damp from the Pacific wind, and she didn't bother hiding the fire in her eyes. "Satellites glitch out the second they point too close," she continued. "Drones lose connection. And don't even get me started on the sub we sent in. Pressure gauges went off the charts before we hit 400 meters. It's like the ocean itself wants it hidden. Why would they hide something and then invite us?" Noah asked, thinking aloud. A hush fell over the room. Everyone turned to him. "Invite us?" the UN secretary asked, raising a brow. Noah nodded and stepped forward. When the orb was retrieved, it opened. Not mechanically, organically, like it knew we were ready. He placed a small disc on the table. It projected a perfect hologram of a sphere slowly rotating. Lines of symbols scrolled across its surface, fluid, ever-changing. We translated the repeating glyphs. Took our AI a day to crack the pattern. The projection shifted. A new line glowed across the top. "We are the Veari. You're the unspoken. Your invitation is overdue." Silence. General Ortega leaned back in his seat. "Unspoken? Sounds like a damn insult. Or a title," Ava replied, folding her arms. "One we don't remember earning." The secretary cleared his throat. "So this message, what else does it say?" Noah sighed. "Nothing. That's it. No threat. No instruction. Just that." "Then what do they want?" Ortega growled. "To talk." Noah answered quietly. "Or warn us. Or worse," Ava muttered. "They think we're late to something. Like we missed a meeting. What if this isn't first contact? What if it's a follow-up?" That landed like a brick in the room. And before anyone could reply, the lights dimmed. Every screen flickered. A soft tone rang through the room, hauntingly familiar. The music was back. The soft hum of the melody floated through every device in the Geneva complex. No speakers, no wiring, just air. Everyone froze. "What the hell is that?" General Ortega snapped, spinning around. "The music," Noah whispered. "It's not a broadcast. It's environmental, like it's being woven into the atmosphere." Ava's eyes narrowed. Her hand hovered near her holstered sidearm, even though they all knew guns wouldn't help against whatever this was. Then the power died. Every screen blinked off. Emergency lights flickered to red. The sound of confused shouting echoed through the halls as security scrambled. And then, just as suddenly, everything turned calm. The room cooled. The air felt thick. In the center of the room, the hologram sphere, previously deactivated, lit up on its own. The surface shifted, lines flowing like liquid light, until an image formed. A figure. It didn't walk in. It didn't rise up. It simply became a presence, tall and ethereal, like a shadow made of mist and starlight. Noah stumbled back, eyes wide. Ava didn't move. She stared down like it owed her money. "Are we being hacked?" someone behind him asked, voice shaking. "No," Noah said quietly. "This is real-time interaction." The figure spoke. "I am Eru of the Veari. You are the forgotten kin. The silence has ended." Its voice wasn't loud. It didn't boom, but it carried weight, as if every word bent gravity itself. "What do you mean, forgotten kin?" Ava asked, stepping forward. "You keep calling us things we've never heard of." The figure tilted its head, a shimmering ripple trailing behind the motion. "You were never meant to forget, but your forebearers chose ignorance. They sealed your memories and ours. The pact was broken. The song was the signal. You've sung again. We are bound to respond. Respond how? Noah asked. Is this diplomacy? A test? Era looked at him. Even without a face, it felt like being watched by a god. The Ashen Pact requires balance. You are not meant to awaken without remembering your cost. And yet, here you are, a fragment of the broken. Ortega barked from behind. Is that a threat? No, it is a warning. The lights surged. A wave of heat passed through the room. Screens blinked back to life. The figure faded. And then it began. Every seismic sensor in the Pacific rang out in unison. Underwater drones launched hours earlier sent back footage. Grainy, erratic images of something rising from the ocean floor. Not a creature. Not a ship. A structure. A black spire taller than Everest. Impossibly smooth, breaking through the water like a needle through fabric. Ava stared at the feed, then looked at Noah. That's not new, she whispered. He nodded slowly, breath shallow. No, that's been down there a long, long time. And now it was waking up. The spires stood tall in the middle of the Pacific, jet black and silent, half submerged in a boiling circle of ocean that refused to settle. It didn't hum. It didn't flash. It just was, and yet the world felt it. Pressure dropped. Wind patterns shifted. Birds changed migration paths. The planet itself was reacting. Ava leaned against the glass of the observation deck aboard the Skyhammer, Earth's fastest suborbital command ship. The spire loomed in the distance, a black dagger rising out of the water. I've seen doomsday movies start with less, she muttered, sipping her black coffee. Noah stood beside her, hair a mess, eyes heavy from lack of sleep. He hadn't stopped working since the figure, Eru, disappeared. It's not a weapon, he said. Ava raised an eyebrow. Oh, great. Then what is it? A cosmic doorbell. No, he said, staring hard at the structure. It's a vault. A beat of silence passed. A vault, she echoed. As in, filled with alien treasure? Tech? Or something worse? He rubbed his forehead, clearly exhausted. I went back through the decoded glyphs. The Ashen Pact, the silence, the invitation. I think the spire is a record. A lockbox of history we were made to forget. Well, that's comforting, Ava said dryly. All we need now is to crack open the vault and unleash ancient galactic regrets. What did go wrong? Before he could reply, a voice came over the comms. Team is ready at the dive point. We're breaching the chamber in T-5. Ava straightened, her smile gone. Let's go see what our ancestors buried. Moments later, they were descending in the Leviathan, a deep-sea vessel reinforced with composite metals barely out of prototype testing. The pressure outside groaned against the hull like the ocean itself was warning them to turn back. Inside, Ava sat strapped in with the rest of the crew, her visor glowing faintly as she monitored the descent. Remind me again, she said, why are we the first ones down here? Because we're the only ones stubborn enough, Noah replied. And the only ones the Vayari spoke to directly. The sub's floodlights ignited, revealing the base of the spire. It extended far deeper than any readings had shown. And then they saw it, an entrance, not carved, grown. The material rippled like it had been grown from liquid stone, forming a perfect archway. The Leviathan stopped. Noah stood, gripping the handle above his seat. We're going in. As they floated through the passage, the sensors went wild. Gravity shifted. Magnetiques spooning impossible patterns. And inside the chamber, they saw it. A room filled with crystalline structures, humming with dormant energy. And in the center, a mural, etched in lines of glowing gold. A depiction of two races locked in a brutal war. One of them, unmistakably human. Noah stepped forward slowly, heart pounding. This isn't history, he breathed. This is a confession. Ava's voice was barely a whisper. What the hell did we do? The chamber pulsed with an eerie golden light, casting long shadows across the curved walls. The mural stretched from floor to ceiling, telling a story in frozen motion. Armored figures wielding strange weapons clashed in chaotic formations, the air around them etched with symbols of fire, destruction, and despair. Among them, clear as day, were human forms, not in spacesuits or modern uniforms, but sleek, ancient armor, marked with emblems no one had seen before. And they weren't losing. They were winning. Ava stepped closer, her breath fogging up her visor. "That's us," she said. "That's humanity. Right there, leading the charge." Noah moved beside her, staring at the mural in stunned silence. "Yeah, and that's the Veari," he added, pointing to the opposing side, tall, luminous beings with elongated forms, falling beneath energy blasts and collapsing structures. Ava turned to him. "So we didn't just fight them." Noah nodded grimly. "We almost wiped them out." For a long moment, the only sound was the low, rhythmic thrum of the chamber. Then a panel on the far wall clicked. A slit opened, and from within emerged a small cube, levitating gently in midair. Noah approached it cautiously. "It's a memory shard," he muttered. "Bio-encrypted data core. These were theorized, but no one's ever found one." "You're saying this cube holds answers?" Ava asked, crossing her arms. "I'm saying it holds our answers." He reached out and touched it. The cube glowed, then projected a flickering hologram. Grainy, faded, but unmistakable. A human, wearing the same emblem seen in the mural, stood at a podium. Behind them, a burning sky. Alien ships fell from the clouds like ash. The voice came through in ragged static. "Project Ashen now confirmed. Memory lock across all surviving sectors. No records. No survivors. Humanity must forget. We cannot carry this forward." Ava's jaw tightened. "They erased it. Our ancestors wiped the slate clean. Not just our memory," Noah said softly. "Theirs too. A mutual silence, a forced peace. That's the Ashen Pact." A sudden vibration rippled through the chamber. The lights dimmed. Then the voice returned, not from the shard, but from everywhere at once. "You have seen," said Eru. "You remember now." The air shimmered, and Eru's form appeared at the edge of the chamber, its body flickering with tension, like a storm barely held back. "You were not meant to awaken without penance." The silence was sacred. Noah took a step forward. "Why show us, then? Why give us access to all this if we weren't ready?" Eru's form shifted, unstable. "Because the veil cracked. Your kind triggered the resonance. The song called us back. And now, balance must be restored." Ava pulled her sidearm slowly, not aiming it, just ready. "What kind of balance are we talking about?" she asked, eyes narrowing. Eru's voice was colder now. "One war destroyed entire systems. We forgave you once. But if memory brings violence again, the pact will end in fire." The image blinked out. Noah looked down at the cube in his hands. "This isn't just history," he whispered. "It's a warning." And above them, in the black ocean, the spire began to pulse. The spire's pulse was slow at first, like a heartbeat, quiet and steady. Then it quickened. Lights spiraled along its length, shooting into the sky like veins of lightning climbing through the darkness. Around the world, sensors went wild. Tides surged unnaturally. The magnetic field warped for a full 3 seconds. And above it all, the music returned. No longer soft, no longer curious. It was urgent now, heavy, like a countdown. Inside the chamber, Noah clutched the cube to his chest. "We need to get this out of here. Now." Ava was already moving, shouting to the dive crew. "Surface. Emergency ascent. Everyone lock in." They barely made it back into the Leviathan. As the vessel rose, they watched through reinforced glass as the base of the spire opened, revealing a deep, glowing fissure beneath the ocean floor. From within, hundreds, maybe thousands, of smaller objects began rising. Orbs, shards, drones. It was an attack. It was a release. Noah stared, stunned. "They're not weapons. They're memories." Ava looked at him like he'd lost it. "Excuse me." Those things, they're encoded, he said quickly. They're not meant to destroy. They're meant to teach. It's a data surge. The Vayari are reactivating everything we forgot. The comms crackled with a voice from Skyhammer Command. Leviathan, status. What the hell is going on down there? Ava tapped her earpiece. Tell Geneva, it's not just a monument. It's a transmitter, and it's turning the planet into a speaker. When they surfaced, chaos greeted them. Satellites all over Earth were picking up anomalies. People were reporting dreams they couldn't explain, vivid images of distant wars, unknown languages, faces that didn't belong to anyone alive today. It had begun. In Geneva, the Emergency Council reconvened. World leaders sat in disbelief as Noah played back fragments of the data cube. Images of human fleets burning alien cities, of Vayari sanctuaries turned to rubble, of humans laughing victorious. President Reed slammed a fist on the table. We were the aggressors. Noah nodded slowly, and they made us forget. All of it. General Ortega growled, passing. They buried the truth, locked it up, then came back to collect once we started remembering. That's not mercy. That's control. Ava stepped forward, her voice sharp. It's fear. They weren't scared of us now. They were scared of what we used to be. President Reed narrowed his eyes. So what now? They wake up our memories, flood the planet with our own guilt, and hope we collapse from the inside. Noah looked down at the cube again, running his thumb along the glowing edge. No, they're testing us, seeing what we do next. If we turn back into what we were, or become something better. Outside, more orbs rained from the sky like falling stars. Cities around the globe watched in awe as they floated silently above buildings, untouched, humming. Ava leaned in toward Noah. What if we're already failing the test? He didn't answer. He couldn't, because the next move was humanity's, and they were already out of time. The sky above Earth looked different now. The stars were still there, but something had shifted, like the universe was holding its breath. All across the planet, the floating orbs hovered in silence, glowing softly. Some hovered in parks. Others hovered over military bases, schools, and even remote villages. They didn't move. They didn't attack. They just watched. In the Geneva Command Center, Ava stood with her arms folded, eyes locked on the largest projection screen. It showed a dozen live feeds from around the world. The Vayari weren't speaking, but their silence was loud. This isn't a display of power, she said. It's judgment. Noah sat nearby, hunched over a table, the memory cube connected to a small console. Lines of alien code streamed down the screen. He hadn't slept in nearly 2 days. Judgment implies a verdict, he muttered. We still have a choice. They're waiting to see what we do with the truth. President Reed stood at the head of the table, shoulders tight with tension. So what do? Apologize for something our ancestors did? Beg for forgiveness we're not even sure we deserve? Noah looked up, eyes dark from exhaustion, but steady. No, we acknowledge it. All of it. We don't pretend it didn't happen. We don't erase it again. Ava nodded in agreement. If we try to bury this, they'll see it. They'll know we haven't changed. And they'll make sure we don't get another chance. Reed stared at her for a long second, then slowly sat down. And if we own up to it, what then? They just forgive us. Noah shook his head. They don't need to forgive us. That's not the point. We need to prove we're not the monsters we used to be. The room fell into tense silence. Then a soft chime echoed through the air. The orb floating outside the building had activated. It projected a beam of light into the conference hall, forming a familiar shape. Eru. You have seen, the voice said. You have remembered. What will you become? Noah stood, his voice calm but firm. We choose truth. We won't erase our past. Not again. We'll carry it, and we'll learn from it. Era didn't move, but something in the room shifted, an unseen pressure lifting. Ava stepped beside Noah. And if you still think we're a threat, fine. But you came here because you believed there was a chance we weren't. So believe it. The Vayari form shimmered for a moment, then slowly bowed its head. then the pact is fulfilled. Outside, the orbs began to rise, lifting into the atmosphere like a slow-motion reverse meteor shower. The spire sank back into the ocean, its light fading. Across the world, people stepped out of their homes, watching the sky with quiet awe. Noah turned to Ava. "So that's it? We're in the clear." She smirked. "For now." He raised a brow. "What? You think they'll be back?" "Oh, not them," she said, slipping her hands into her jacket pockets. "The ones we forgot about. The ones who made us forget in the first place." Noah's face went pale. "You think someone else was behind the memory wipe?" Ava's smile faded. "I know it. Far above the planet, beyond the range of any human telescope, a distant shape stirred in the dark. Silent, massive, watching, and waiting, because Earth had passed one test. But the real enemy hadn't arrived yet. Here is the story ends. If you enjoyed and want to watch more thrilling sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Dive into epic battles, explore distant galaxies, and join brave heroes as they fight for survival against impossible odds. Let us know in comments if you want next chapters to publish soon. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of the journey. Together, we'll keep the last light burning. Subscribe now and let the adventure continue.